was there. I don't have to listen to it.
This week's show because it was a disaster.
When you live in a beach resort, it's easy to forget whether you are playing or working. On each week's show, we settle in with a cocktail and try to figure out if there is a difference. This is Day Drinking on Delmarva.
And I am Todd from GoodCleanFunLife.com.
I'm Tony Rousseau, no relation, and you're listening to Day Drinking in Delmarva, a podcast about life, culture, and social media therapy. Mostly social media therapy. Mostly two guys that are just fighting the good fight as independent media people and our various adventures, I guess.
Yes.
Maybe I should write something that's better like that. That's media. Two independent media guys and their various adventures. I could do better than various adventures if I had a minute, but I don't because I've been talking a minute. And I still haven't said anything. Each week, we are sponsored by a local business that we like. This week, it is me. I am that local business. I am up to my ears in stuff to do. So for my day job, I write for the funeral industry. I have a funeral industry Substack. Oh, I want to talk about Substack too today.
Okay.
And it is called On Deathcare. If you're interested at all in Deathcare, it's something you should look at. I was just thinking, I'm not trying very hard, but I'm trying to be a little cognizant that people might be interested in reading, because I cover the business of funeral homes and the business of cemeteries and the business of, the business of,
it's
called
a whole
pre-need. It's essentially funeral insurance is so bananas and is so complex that I can't even begin to kind of
why do you need funeral insurance? In case you don't die?
No. Okay, so there are several things. So when you die, you might have regular insurance and you'll get a check, and your family can write a check for the regular insurance and pay for your funeral with it. But they can't really do that till like after the funeral, because you have to close your probate and all this stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and people have funeral insurance through the funeral home. So that way, when they die, no one has to pay for their funeral. They've already paid, essentially, for their funeral. Funeral insurance, it's not quite insurance because you pay for the whole thing. And then
it's more
when
like
you die,
layaway.
you don't have to pay. But each state has got like a bunch of different rules. And it's so funny because it's insurance and it's technically very boring. And then you start to kind of dig into it and it's insanely interesting. Because in some states, they just take your money. They say, okay, that funeral, you go and you're like, all right, if you were to die today, your funeral would cost $10,000. Give me $10,000. And whenever you die, your funeral will be free. And they can take that money and put it in the bank and they get the interest on it. So depending upon how long it takes you to die, they could either make, they make either some money on your funeral or a lot of money on your funeral or no money on your funeral, depending, if you bought some today and lived to be 95, you'd be getting a huge discount on your funeral. But I've talked to people that they say if you die in the first 15 years, they give you like 20% off because they've already made enough and they don't want to be gouging people. Well, that's in places like New Jersey, they actually have to send you the interest. So you pay for a $10,000 funeral today, and if it's $40,000, you owe them $30,000. But it wouldn't be that much. But you know what I mean. So that's and that's just part of it. And I did a big story on an insurance company this week that got me a lot of attention, which was cool. And we can talk about it, but it is really inside baseball. More important though, I think the only person doing like actual news coverage of funeral service, of the funeral business. And as a result, it's really kind of taken off in a way that I never expected. So if you're interested, check it out. I promise it's fascinating. I wrote a story this week about a company that, and here's the kind of thing, right? Because funeral service is very behind as far as tech is concerned. So this company, a brand new company, put out a product in the last, let's say, 6 months or so, where you can pay for your cemetery plot online. So you can go to the cemetery, pick out a plot, and pay for it online. You couldn't do that last year.
That is kind of crazy that you couldn't do that.
Right? And I didn't even, I'm like,
you couldn't do that. Yeah.
And when I was talking to these guys, I'm like, so what makes yours different? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, how's it different than other? Because it's essentially just a buy now button, right? And he's like,
right.
Yeah, no one has that.
I was going to make
no one.
I was going to make the obvious comment that kind of tickles me. Well, the problem, Tony, is that most people who are dying are old.
And that's literally, and you know what happened? COVID happened. And they all had to start shopping online, and they all became like me. Actually, I'm old, so I am. And I'm like, I am never leaving the freaking house again. Like, if I can't do it online, I probably don't need it. Right. Except sunshine. Like, I'll go out and get sunshine, but I keep that here at my house. You know?
Yeah, right. I have my own supply right in the backyard.
And that's so amazing. It's been a wild couple of weeks, but when I get back, I'm going to New Jersey this week. I'm very excited going to see Tig Notaro in she's a comedian, sorry. I didn't know. I thought she was famouser than that.
We run in
Red
different
Bank.
circles.
Huh?
We run in different circles.
We do run in different circles. She's kind of famous for she was diagnosed with cancer and she was about to die.
Oh, wow.
Louis C.K., who's less popular now than he was at the time, like he went and had her up on his stage, and he's like, well, you may as well go out and talk about what it's like to know you're going to die from cancer. And she did this like really like killer, very funny set about how she was going to die. And then of course she didn't. It was like more like a miracle recovery, but then she had like a double mastectomy, and then she did like a topless show.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. But anyway, she's the kind of person, she's a limit pusher,
I like that.
to say the least. Like, she'll just be quiet until you laugh, and then you're done laughing. And then I saw her do a bit, and this is really boring to listen to, so sorry guys, but I saw her do a bit where she literally just pushed a chair across the stage for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And you're like, she's got to be done now, right? And then she pushed a little farther, and it's just. But the story that went with it was very funny. But you're like, she's not really going to keep pushing that chair around, is she? Right. Yeah, she kept pushing it around. So anyway, she's like an alt comic in that way. She doesn't do like, take my wife please type jokes. But I'm looking forward to seeing her this weekend. That's
fun. You going to see your brothers too, or?
No, because they're all younger than me, and they have kids, and they have shit to do. They got baseball, they got soccer. I'm like, man, you guys missed out. You should have ruined your life and had kids when you were 12, and that way you could have your 50s off.
Yeah.
I don't have to do anything till I go to my daughter's law school graduation in 2 months, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and that'll be fun. And we'll be off that week. That's the week of May 12th. We'll be off.
Okay.
So catch me up. What have you were at a shoot? This is when we're recording Friday, which is really weird for us. We usually don't record on Friday.
And we had the miss last week because the big news from the death desk.
Right. I was underwater. But yeah.
I love saying, but we're gearing up for the season. May is one of those for us. Going into the summer season with the restaurants and bars that we work with is a great time to like stock up on content to be able to trickle out throughout the year. Also, everybody's like really excited when the weather is starting to turn, and it's still not consistently great, but the bugs aren't bad, and
got a couple 80-degree days under our belts.
Yeah. And we might have I hear we might have like a super hot summer. So take them while you get them. This is my favorite time of year to remind myself to enjoy this time and take advantage of it. And with that, I was trying to remember, and what we need, as we're going into the season, it's like, all right, take it. It was a food shoot, right? You were asking what was the shoot, and it was, food shoot's kind of boring, right? But
not as boring as funeral insurance, but I talked about that for 15 minutes.
I don't know. It's something interesting. The concept that I'm putting out there right now is one that is not totally unique or my idea, but sometimes getting new equipment is a great way to spark some creativity. So, and along with that is the realization, Natalie and I work together, and we've been working, we have a lot of people that we feel like we're partners with. We work with the marketing department at the Freeman Art Pavilion, and they're great. And, you can do some collaborative stuff. And, creativity doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? It's, maybe for you being a writer, that's more of a solitary thing, but, you probably still talk to, you do, I know, you talk to other writers.
Stuff outside
comes
in first. Otherwise, nothing comes out.
Right. And I think that you can leverage equipment for that purpose too. You see something you like, and then you can rent. There's a lot of places to do that. You can get something cheap. You can get something just a little different to stylize the photo shoots. And what we had done is something that Natalie, and it was great to see Natalie do this. Like I'm always doing weird tweaks and trying different things that I've seen on YouTube or wherever. But Natalie is kind of like the tactician, right? She is very fundamentally sound in, the creating of the website and the capturing the photo with sharp focus and editing it so all of the elements and all of the focus is drawn to the right point. But there was this really cool photo that one of the that Izzy that we work with, who's the marketing person at the Starboard, had shown, and it was like a wide angle lens, like a fisheye lens, right? So distorted, and it was somebody grabbing a beer out of the cooler, but from the perspective of the back of the cooler. So like like almost like you're a bottle waiting to be picked,
right?
And it was just really neat. And then so to watch Natalie like figuring out how to make that happen and how to make that her own was kind of fun, and also then like inspiring to me. And like, you know what, we're gonna use, I got this new light, which is part of the reason I was going to talk about it, and we're gonna use that in this manner to to just stylize a little bit and do something a little different than again, like we say every week, than the AI slop that people are just putting in there.
I had an AI slop misfire this week. It was funny because I often respond to, not often, maybe 1 out of 30. I get so many.
Yeah.
Because AI, I think I've mentioned on the podcast before, OpenAI, Sam Altman.
Yeah.
I hope he gets eye cancer. Stole my book and put it in his machine so he could make an extra 12 cents, right? Fuck him. Yeah. Good, right? I don't care. Again, there's no hell for him. Hopefully he'll get dragged behind a truck by accident. Maybe something really, really, like, the worse he dies, the better I'll feel. That's a fact. But one of the downsides of that, I mean, no one's asking ChatGPT, did Sherry Shriner really die in her bedroom? Like, that's not, but right. What it did was it unleashed all of these fuckers on me who are like, I read your book and I like this part, that part, and the other part, and this is how my marketing team can help you sell your book better. I get 10 of them a day. 10, easily. 10 of them a day. And I don't get any about the beer books because the beer people sold my book and didn't steal it. So I don't know. I mean, they sold it for $300, but I don't know. You know what? I am just so small. And I'm not comfortable with that, but you got to live with it at some point. But anyway, so usually I say, hey, I hope you get cancer. Hey, I hope you get cancer. Hey, I hope you get cancer. And I got this one pitch that was just so egregious. And it wasn't about the book. It was about funeral stuff. But it was about my funeral podcast. And I get a lot of them as well. Right?
Yeah.
I listen to your podcast and I like this part, that part, and the other part. And this is why this person who has nothing to do with funeral service would be great for your show. Bah!
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I don't know if you're a real person. If you're a real person, I hope you get cancer. If you're not a real person, I hope Alex, who was the person that they were pitching as a guest, gets cancer.
Yeah.
And like 10 minutes later, I'm like, I got an email back like, I am a real person. That escalated very quickly. And I just deleted it, and blocked it. But then I started getting the same person was following me on LinkedIn and like liking all my stuff and saying like, I'm a real person. I'm a real person. I'm a real person.
God. Which is just what a bot would say.
A bot wouldn't be able to go from my email to my LinkedIn though. So and of course they didn't have a picture either. So I'm like, oh wow, this is really, really unfortunate. And I just didn't want to rise to the bait, which is not like me, because I'm when it comes to like trolling and flame wars, I'm not bad. I can hold my own, I think, with many people. But this was and vaguely sexist, but not intentionally. So this was a woman person who was doing this. And I thought it was very funny because you would have to be absolutely tone deaf as a guy to do that to a woman writer. Like, I don't know how many of them are left. They're like, I'm real. See, look here, I'm going to stalk you online now because you said something mean to me. Like, that's a guy thing to do. That's not a woman thing to do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, here's to equal opportunity, internet stalking for petty reasons.
Yeah. Extremely petty.
But the reason I told that story is, I said I'd written another story this week that was well received, and what would count as like a legacy blog actually mentioned it, which is really, really, because it was about a big company, and it's about a big company that has that takes out so many ads in so many places that nobody ever says anything even vaguely negative about them. Right. It's like, it was like, I'm not going to spend $100,000 just to say that they got something wrong because I need the money. I don't need the money because I'm poor and I have subscribers, and God bless my subscribers. And I have a lot. I mean,
That's awesome.
I don't have a lot. Like, I still have to have like several part-time jobs, but the fact that anyone pays it all, and the fact that I get like nice notes, like this is worth it, this is valuable, it makes me so happy.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting description to give you a sense of how like behind the scenes we might be when it comes to being on Substack and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
The writer said something like, Tony Russo, who writes on Deathcare for the Substack platform. And I'm like, does he think I work for Substack? I think that people think that Substack is like, not like Blogger, but more like a magazine that has sections in it, which isn't bad. It was just an interesting, I never thought of it that way.
There has to be a contingency of people who just assume that because of the subscriber kind of aspect of it, they're like, oh, this must be. Yeah, they don't realize that they can all jump on.
And there are also a number of there's a company called Puck. There used to be a company called Airmail that got bought by Puck, and these are email platforms. They would never hire me, because they write mostly for like pretty wealthy people in pretty specific niches, right? Not just like how to buy an airplane, but they write about higher end stuff, and or else entertainment. And I'm not, but that what they do, and there are several companies. It's happening more and more. And again, I'm not on even the short list or the long list of any of these companies, but there are companies that are now kind of trolling along on Substack and finding people with significant followings and
and
making deals with them.
It is interesting, like I mentioned before. Very much enjoy working with the new person at the Starboard, Izzy, and she's a very young girl and she's smart. And it's funny because her background is marketing, and she's kind of been thrust into the social media side of things. But beyond like the branding and stuff like that, and beyond the social media stuff is the realization of all, like, you have to take in consideration all of the platforms,
Yeah.
and Substack is being one of them. Like even LinkedIn, like the draft happened last night, and number one pick Fernando Hernandez, no, not Hernandez, like famously doesn't have social media, but is on LinkedIn. And just kind of like a nerdy kid. But so Substack to the website to Facebook to the other less desirable things, but there has to be a through line with all of those, and some people just miss that or forget that or focus on the one thing, and podcast is included in that.
Yeah,
category.
a podcast is really kind of like a blog at this point. You ought to have one. You don't have to put it out every week, but you should have something. I wrote about this actually for the funeral business. Like, if you want to be a CEO, people should know your face. You have to get out there and say, this is my company. Otherwise, there's like authenticity. We say it every week is kind of the coin of the realm.
Yeah.
And never more so, especially now
Yeah.
with all of the AI garbage that's out there, like coming out and saying, hi, this is me. Like, I have a long record of being me.
Yeah.
As do you.
Yes. Yes.
If for no other reason because of this show. So that's really interesting. I don't know if you know this or not. I told you I got Canva, which I hadn't had before.
Yes.
And there's resize buttons, and that is insanely good for me. So now
Right.
I'm putting stuff on, because you just hit resize for Instagram, resize for LinkedIn, resize for Facebook.
Yeah.
I suppose you could resize for TikTok, but I'm not going on TikTok, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't go into Burger King,
I-
as John Travolta might have said.
yeah.
And it's a way to be more efficient, but it gives me time to make sure it looks better. And I mean, I'm not a designer, and if anybody does buy me, I'll use some of that money to get a real designer to do real design. But
Right.
for being an amateur designer, it's not as awful as it could be. It's certainly not as awful as when I was using, Google Draw to make
Right.
my graphics. So
Microsoft Art
Microsoft Paint.
Paint.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've worked
Yeah.
in Paint. So what?
No, some of that stuff might be coming back. It's funny actually. The latest release of my editing software, DaVinci, they have like a 8-bit filter. So like there's some of those things
You
are
can make it look old.
yeah, to do that. Nostalgic look. That's what. But-
And we are running a little short this week, so we're going to call it a day, but we will be back next week. We'll find a date and we'll do it. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe if you haven't. And that's pretty much all I have. How about you?
I got nothing.
All right. Well, until next time, remember, at the beach.
It's happy hour whenever you say it is.